What is Steve Martin's best movie? Now, the previous video that we did, which was wrapped around Christmas songs, not necessarily Alan's wheelhouse, but I'm hoping that Steve Martin movies are. And there's one movie in particular that I know is in Alan's wheelhouse because we went and saw it together in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't
really good, too.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It wasn't The Jerk, because The Jerk came out before we were even born. It was 1979. Mm-hmm. But the one that I am talking about is Bowfinger, which is highly underrated. And I would recommend anybody going and checking out Bowfinger if you haven't seen it. Although Steve Martin's not necessarily kind of the star of that movie, it's really Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is brilliant in that. But I put the poll up on my YouTube channel for Steve Martin movies, and the three that I put up were Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, The Jerk, Bowfinger, and then, of course, the fourth option was something else where people can write in another movie that maybe is not listed. Now, there was a runaway favorite of those three because something else came in second. I'll give you that. What of those three movies that I listed do you think came in first?
You know, the only reason why I'm saying this is because it's a little bit later. I think it falls in between two of them, and also because it stars probably one of the best comedic geniuses of the 80s as well as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
You are 100% correct.
John Candy.
And I forgot just how brilliant that movie is. I just watched it with my kid. We had started it, just me and her, and she was confused. She had no idea what was going on because the movie starts where he's in New York in the board meeting, and it's just him sitting there. He's bored, and that's exactly what my kid looked like. She was bored watching it. But I think it eventually kind of grew on her. At least I'm hoping, because it's a really good movie. The plot with John Candy and his wife, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's so good. So it did come in first place on the poll on my YouTube channel. 51% of people voted for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So we're going to get to some facts now about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The movie was supposed to be filmed entirely in Chicago, but there wasn't enough snow. And that was kind of the premise, is that they keep getting snowed in everywhere. Can you guess where they ended up filming most of the movie?
I will say Boston.
No, but it is in the Northeast. Buffalo, New York is where they ended up. And Steve Martin even said that the crew of the movie ended up kind of living the plot of the movie, except rather than trying to get home, they were bouncing from place to place trying to find snow to film in. God. So the movie was going to be rated PG-13, but one scene pushed it into rated R territory. Can you think of the scene that did that? Arguably my favorite scene from the movie.
I can't think of it.
It's the scene where he drops 18 F-bombs at the St. Louis car rental employees. So the employee was played by Edie McClurg, and she also played Principal Rooney's secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Highly underrated, by the way. I don't think she gets the credit that she's due for a lot of the roles that she played. So that conversation that she has on the phone, she's supposed to be having a conversation with a customer where she's talking about a rental car and stuff like that. But what made it into the movie ended up being an ad-libbed conversation where they told her, hey, just talk about Thanksgiving like a conversation that you would have with one of your friends. And she's talking about how she can't cook and bring this and bring this and bring this. Well, Steve Martin is there just stewing, getting pissed off. And he drops just this flurry of F-bombs on her. And I just remember, I want a fucking car right fucking now. Hands down, probably my favorite scene from that movie. One more random fact from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. There was supposed to be a strip club scene in that movie where Neil and Del, they end up going to a strip club to use the phone, and then Del gets distracted by the dancers. I kind of want to see how that would have played out. All right, coming in at number 2 was something else, because there's a lot of other Steve Martin movies that didn't get listed here on this poll. So 29% of people voted for something else. There were 2 main movies that people wrote in as votes. Can you think of those 2 movies? One of these you better get.
Well, I think one of them is the one I voted on,
Absolutely.
Which is The Three Amigos with Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short.
Yep.
Probably one of the greatest movies ever.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that?
No, I was agreeing with you. So then what do you think the second movie was? So it can't be The Jerk and it can't be Bowfinger. What do you think was the other Steve Martin movie? I don't think I've actually seen this movie.
I want to say it's Parenthood.
No, I would have thought it was that or Father of the Bride.
Yes.
But it was Cheaper by the Dozen. Got a ton of votes for Steve Martin. Never seen it. So when it comes to Three Amigos, do you know where Steve Martin learned the rope tricks that he does in the movie Three Amigos?
From a guy?
Well, I would imagine somebody taught him how to do it. He learned it because he worked at Disneyland. He worked in Disneyland from age 10 to 18, and he would do the rope tricks while he was trying to sell guidebooks and also spinning lassos in Frontierland.
Oh, that's crazy.
So the crew of Three Amigos was almost way different. First of all, Steven Spielberg almost directed the movie. And he had, do you know who he planned on having team up with Steve Martin?
Wasn't it?
Really big name actors, comedic actors.
Comedic actors.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Robin Williams and Bill Murray.
Both of those would have been good.
So John Landis ended up becoming the movie's director. And he wanted the trio that he got, but there was a backup just in case Martin Short couldn't do it. Big name 80s actor disappeared for a while. Just recently kind of came back. The reason he disappeared is because his wife passed away. And he was going to raise his kids.
Oh, that would have been really good. But why can't I remember his name at the moment?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. No, I know.
Rhymes with Slick Smaranis.
There you go. Rick Moranis. Yeah. Like I knew when you said the thing about the wife and the kids, like I knew exactly who it was, but I just couldn't remember what his name was.
Yeah, so it was Rick Moranis was the backup just in case Martin Short couldn't do it. Now, some of the other actors that were considered for roles in the movie, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, which might seem...
Funny thing is, I was going to say all those actors kind of make sense. They all kind of...
I think, yeah, they all would have fit those roles pretty well. Now, the thing with John Belushi, you might be wondering, well, he passed away in 1982 and the movie wasn't released until 1986. That's because this movie was being planned for a while. Wow. So he had been thought of for a role and it ended up not working out. Coming in at number 3 on the poll, The Jerk, 14%. The can scene, hands down, one of my favorite Steve Martin scenes. One of Stanley Kubrick's films was born from meeting with Steve Martin because after Kubrick had seen The Jerk, he wanted to work with Steve Martin. So they got together and they started to plan out a movie. That obviously didn't come to fruition, but it ended up becoming a Stanley Kubrick film. Can you think of what film that is? And it would have been really strange based on the film that they came out with and having Steve Martin in it.
The Clockwork Orange.
No, although that would have been really intriguing having Steve Martin in that.
Steve Martin, yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut. So that's based on Arthur. God, I always have trouble saying his name. Arthur Schnitzler's Rhapsody, a Dream novel. And the plot of that is a doctor's wife confesses to having sexual fantasies of another man. And obviously working with Steve Martin, they were going to want to work that into some sort of a comedy, and that didn't happen, but ultimately it became Eyes Wide Shut. And then a random fact here, The Jerk was actually co-written by Carl Gottlieb, who was nominated for a Golden Globe for his screenplay for Jaws.
Oh, go figure.
So there's a Jaws connection with The Jerk. All right, final movie here for Steve Martin, and this is the one that Alan and I love. Bowfinger only got 6% of the vote. Mm-hmm. God, we went and saw this because we just showed up at the theater, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we were just there, and we were like, let's go see something. And then Bowfinger was like the only movie that was out. Or that looked interesting.
Yeah, stop and think about that. Imagine just showing up to a movie theater and deciding, let's see what's out, and then picking one randomly, and thankfully we ended up really enjoying it. So,
well, I think it was one of those things though too. Is like we knew who was in it. It's like it can't be bad if it's Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy in it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So
it's a win-win.
Also in the movie, Heather Graham, she plays Daisy. Now, her character was a thinly veiled jab at another famous actress. I'm going to see if you can name who this actress was. She was briefly involved with a significantly older man. And there's a line in the movie towards the end that says she is now involved with the most powerful lesbian in Hollywood.
It would...
That sound you made almost sounds like her first name.
Ellen?
No. Well, no, you're on the right path. You're on the right path.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of her.
Anne Heche. That was who she had the relation. That's who Ellen DeGeneres had the relationship back with the 90s. Yep. By the way, R.I.P. Anne Heche. I think she passed away this year in that horrific car accident. But yeah, it was a thinly veiled jab at her because she had a relationship back in the day with Steve Martin. And that was one of the things, where she, with Heather Graham's character, she ends up involved with Steve Martin's character in the movie. Yep. And in real life, Anne Heche had a relationship with Steve Martin as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And this movie was almost way different. I want you to think about how different this would have been because the role that Eddie Murphy ends up playing was written for somebody else. Big 90s action star. He's still around. He's just become a beloved person because of how he is just in life in general. I'm trying to think of hints that I can give that would not completely give it away. Whoa.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, man.
Yeah, that role was written for Keanu Reeves, for crying out loud. And then ultimately they ended up with Eddie Murphy. And God, I'm running through my brain now the scenes where he's playing the brother and they're just...
I would love to see Keanu Reeves play the role of Kit.
I know, right?
What's the brother's name?
I think it was it was Kit, I thought. Or no, Kit was the action star. Oh, see, now I got to look it up. Like we're talking about this movie and we can't even list who the characters played or who they played. Oh, it was Jiff. It was Kit and Jiff.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
And that's who Eddie Murphy played. Oh my goodness. So again, if you guys haven't seen Bowfinger, cannot recommend it enough. It's just a silly, funny comedy that if you got a couple hours to spend and you want to laugh, definitely go check it out.
It's a great jab at Hollywood in general. Like
absolutely.
That movies and actors and actresses are in Hollywood. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because the premise is, and we can give this part away. So Steve Martin plays the character. His last name is Bowfinger, and he's a director trying to make another movie, and they end up filming. So Eddie Murphy plays two characters. He plays an actual action star, and then he plays the brother of the action star, who's this kind of geeky, nerdy guy. And so what they end up doing, and there's another random fact that I completely forgot to put on this list. Remember the scene where he's running across the freeway?
Yes.
Hail to God! Hail to God! Hail to God! That scene? They shut down that portion of the freeway for 2 days. So the whole point is they're filming this movie without the knowledge of the actual action star. Like they do these really wide shots where they just film him in real life. And then for the close-ups, they use his brother, who's played by obviously both roles played by Eddie Murphy. And that one scene, they just stick him on the side of the freeway and they're telling him, no, just run across the freeway. And
Are you sure? Is this going to be safe?
So for that scene, they apparently did. They shut down that section of freeway for 2 days filming the actual movie Bowfinger.
For a 30-second scene. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. And it's a hail to God, hail to God.
They're stunt drivers. Oh, that's cool.
All right, coming up in future videos, we're going to get to the hottest Christmas toys by year. We're going to go all the way back to the 60s. We're going to go year by year because the interesting thing is, even in the 60s and 70s, they're all, for the most part, toys that we all know. We've either played with them, they've done an updated version of them. It's all stuff that we remember. So we're going to hit up the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Each decade is going to be its own video. We're also going to get to the best Christmas specials. If you haven't voted on this poll yet, you can jump over to my YouTube channel or here on my YouTube channel, wherever it pops up, and you can vote on it. The 3 that I put there for Christmas specials were How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Charlie Brown Christmas, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, the point of this was to be actual Christmas specials, not movies. Because people started started writing in Die Hard or It's a Wonderful Life. No, those are movies. We want to talk about actual Christmas specials. And there's one that I'm going to bring up when we record that video. I'm going to see if Alan actually remembers it or not. So if you're here, thank you for being here. Make sure you click like down below, click the little thumbs up, and click everything else so that you get the notifications. And also, if you have a Bowfinger quote that you want to drop down in the comments, please feel free to do that. Or maybe we got something wrong or you want to complain about something. You are more than welcome to do that as well.